This map shows a loosely defined region of the North Atlantic Ocean, bounded by Florida, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico. For decades, this patch of water has carried a dark, paranormal reputation. It is known in popular culture as a supernatural death trap, where vessels vanish without explanation. The origin of that reputation traces back to a single afternoon, December 5, 1945. 5 Navy Avenger torpedo bombers, a squadron known as Flight 19, took off from Fort Lauderdale on a routine training exercise and vanished. When the squadron lost contact, the military dispatched a Mariner seaplane with a 13-man crew to search the area. Within an hour, that rescue plane also fell off the radio. By nightfall, 27 men and 6 aircraft had disappeared over the open ocean. In the years that followed, magazines and books seized on scattered radio transcripts from the flight leader, who was heard saying the ocean looked wrong. Speculation ran wild. Writers suggested the men had been abducted by extraterrestrials or swallowed by a dimensional portal leading to Atlantis. That single tragedy birthed the massive paranormal industry of the Bermuda Triangle. But a close look at the historical data reveals that the real story of Flight 19 is a lesson in how human error and treacherous natural conditions were eventually repackaged for profit. Official Navy records tell a much more grounded story. The flight leader, Lieutenant Charles Taylor, was a seasoned combat veteran, but he was new to this specific flight path. During the exercise, his compasses failed, and he experienced severe spatial disorientation, a condition where a pilot loses their sense of direction and position relative to the Earth. This map plots Taylor's fatal navigational error. Because of the broken compasses and unfamiliar terrain, he believed he was flying south over the Florida Keys. Ground radar estimates, however, placed his actual location far to the north, over the Bahamas. Because Taylor was convinced he was over the Gulf of Mexico, he ignored radio advice from other pilots urging him to fly west toward the Florida coast. Instead, he ordered his squadron to fly east, searching for land that wasn't there. They flew further out into the open Atlantic until their fuel tanks ran dry, forcing all 5 planes to ditch in rough waters. The loss of the rescue plane has an equally tragic mechanical explanation. The Mariner model dispatched to find them was notorious for severe fuel vapor leaks in the cabin. Pilots referred to them as flying gas tanks. At the exact time the Mariner lost contact, a merchant ship reported seeing a 100-foot burst of flames erupt over the dark ocean. The rescue plane had suffered a catastrophic mid-air explosion. The loss of those 27 men required no paranormal intervention. It was the devastating result of navigational confusion compounding with a lethal mechanical failure. Even if we accept the mechanics of the crashes, it raises an obvious question. Why were the wreckage and the bodies never recovered from the water? This diagram shows one of the primary reasons, the Gulf Stream. It is a massive, warm ocean current that acts like a high-speed river flowing straight through the Florida Straits and up the Atlantic coast. Moving at speeds of up to 5 knots, the sheer velocity of the Gulf Stream can carry floating debris miles away from an initial crash site in a matter of hours. By the time search and rescue teams arrive at a projected location, the evidence has already been swept away. Above the water, the atmosphere is incredibly volatile. The region is highly prone to white squalls, intense, localized windstorms that arrive with almost zero warning, and aggressive hurricane patterns that can completely swamp a large vessel before a distress call can even be sent. Below the surface lies another obstacle. The seafloor here features the Puerto Rico Trench, a tectonic subduction zone where one plate dives beneath another. It reaches depths of over 5 miles, placing heavy sunken wreckage far beyond the reach of human recovery. Heavy maritime traffic, rapid ocean currents, unpredictable violent storms, and abysmal trenches combine to create a hostile environment. Nature has engineered this region to swallow evidence. The leap from a natural disaster to a legendary mystery started with an administrative technicality. Following the Navy's initial report blaming the crash on pilot error, Lieutenant Taylor's grieving mother lobbied the military. To spare the family further pain, the Navy altered the official ruling to say the planes were lost to causes unknown. Decades later, opportunistic writers like Vincent Gaddis and Charles Berlitz seized on that causes unknown label. They realized there was a lucrative market for the unexplainable. They manufactured a mystery by selectively editing the historical record. They omitted the Navy's weather reports of stormy seas, ignored the clear evidence of fuel starvation, and stripped Taylor's radio transmissions of all context, leaving only eerie, isolated quotes about the ocean looking strange. To build their case, these authors even redrew the map. They regularly expanded the boundaries of the triangle to claim shipwrecks that actually occurred hundreds of miles away in entirely different parts of the Atlantic Ocean. The supposedly cursed stretch of water was a carefully engineered media narrative, constructed to turn unexplainable grief into a profitable paperback industry. When we check the facts against the ultimate arbiters of maritime reality, the United States Coast Guard and the global marine insurance market, Lloyd's of London, the myth collapses. This chart compares the accident rate in the Bermuda Triangle to other global shipping lanes. Proportionally, disappearances here equal any other heavily trafficked ocean region. Because of this, marine insurance companies do not charge higher premiums. The math simply doesn't reflect a supernatural threat. The Bermuda Triangle endures not because of paranormal anomalies, but because of human psychology. We are drawn to the thrill of a manufactured mystery, often because it feels easier to blame the supernatural than to accept the mundane, sometimes cruel reality of nature and human error.